Earlier last month, I told you guys about how I wanted to hit 2020 running. It really looks like ArenaNet is doing the same. The amount of stuff that has been announced in the past 14 days for the game is nuts. I want to run through it all with you guys, kind of briefly on some of these topics, just because the really juicy, meaty thing you've probably already seen in the title is what I want to get to first. So first of all, you remember a few weeks ago, Boots, I had over on the channel and talked to about the upcoming balance. The devs gave a few previews, a few modifications. Well, that is now in-game, as well as the new mini-season initiative for ranked queues. So as you can see right now, the last PvP season has ended, and I'm now at a 2v2 season. So the deathmatch mode has been added. People have been asking for this as an actual queuable ranked thing for ages. It's not going to take as long as a full season. You'll see that it actually ends on March 23rd, at which case we'll kick back up into more conquest stuff. This is a nice start, and I'd like to see whether they do mini seasons for Stronghold or mini seasons for larger scale deathmatch formats later as well. There were even a couple of little tournaments supporting it. It's been a pretty good time, I think, for most people. There are some differences with the mini seasons, such as you can't go all the way up to a Byzantium chest, but there are still many rewards available. The new Warlord's armor got added to the game. That's also available in World versus World. And in general, all the movements you heard that they announced, back in November or December for this part of the game, is kind of in now, which is pretty cool. Obviously, the balance itself has been a big factor there, and I want to do a dedicated video on that because, as you guys know, we talked 2 hours just on a preview about it, but it seems like there's been a lot going on, really. I mean, not just in terms of animations and the restoration or new version of auras, but even in PvE, I think balance went really kind of crazy. I heard that Chronomancer's damage was getting around 40k or something. Not sure exactly what the state of that's on. We'll look at that in its own production. As well, they kind of slipped in another exciting thing that they announced on the forums. I didn't talk to you guys about when they announced this, but it is interesting to look at, and that's new tutorial quests. Over my stream for the past week or so, I have been doing them. So I've always felt that tutorials are really important for Guild Wars because I'm very minded about new players coming into the game and actually sticking with the game. And if they are presented with core tier as it currently is, where there's really not much that they're challenged by or have to focus on, then they don't really learn how deep and wonderful the game can be and end up leaving. Tutorials can teach you how deep and wonderful the game is, and maybe you stick about. And also, it alleviates issues of stress between people in the open world when you're annoyed people don't break bar and all those kinds of things that people love to rant about. So, the devs added some new tutorials. I have been playing them. I've got a good chunk through them. There's some new, achievement point rewards and stuff to get for even veteran players. You'll see I've done the vast majority of them. Honestly, I don't think the system was implemented that well, though. Why? Well, most new players, they're not really looking at achievements, are they? There's nothing that really centers their attention on this. What's actually happening is you make a new account or you start these tutorial quests and they just ding, 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 ding in the background as you finish your first heart quest or as you finish your first POI and as you just do things in general. Maybe the best thing this will do is get people to chef a bit more and learn how to eat foods, but I don't know, I have to say, it's a great idea, but in the implementation, I think that the devs won't really have changed anything with this, and I'm very disappointed by that. You guys will actually remember in the historical section for achievements, long ago, they actually had another form of hints that you could look at and get a bit of AP, and they got retired, so now we have this new version. I don't know, I think we needed something a little bit different for that one. But yeah, new tutorial quests, it's a good idea. And so then that brings me to the stuff in the title. At the end of last week, we had a teaser for the upcoming patch, and at the start of this week, Tuesday, just yesterday, the devs did announce something pretty fantastic, and that's the return of Living World Season 1. So let's head over to the website and see what we've got. You'll immediately see there's this cool new art here. Visions of the Past, Steel and Fire. This will be the first Visions of the Past drop we're having in the game. We've been anticipating it since their roadmap at the end of last year. And, well, we get this lovely art, and it looks like the Iron Forgeman. Doesn't that look like the Iron Forgeman? I'm sure it won't be in the end, right? Well, we'll see. There's actually a teaser trailer for this that I haven't watched yet. I'll be doing it blind with you guys on this video. So, yeah, let's roll on in and see what they have to say, and start off with Visions of the Past itself. They say, it's time to go back, revisit epic encounters and see events through different eyes in Visions of the Past Steel and Fire update. Join the ranks of the Steel Warband and fight alongside Ryland, then play as Ryland himself to explore the Dark Rime Delves. So this already is quite interesting. Before all of this news dropped, the understanding I think we all had in the community was that we'd probably go up to the scrying pool at the Eye of the North, and we would inhabit Ryland and play as him. That's all they'd ever described. Now we're actually hearing that there's separate things going on. One where you play alongside him, and then one where you are him. Then, on top of these two things, they say tackle 4 story missions from Living World Season 1, replayable for the first time. Now, anyone who knows me knows that I find the Living World Season 1 stuff really, really, really important. I'll get to that in just a moment. Let's have fun with the Ryland thing and the trailer first of all. So yeah, March 17th, not far away at all. Remember, this is a part of Icebrood Saga, but it's not necessarily the next episode. But hopefully it feels as bulky as an episode, and then we can actually start to be a bit more impressed by what Icebrood Saga is trying to do. So let's watch the trailer.
Your wounds have mended. What are you waiting for? The scrying pool's ready.
You're in the Steel Warband now. I expect nothing short of absolute perfection.
Aren't you the sorriest bunch of recruits I've ever laid eyes on?
All targets eliminated.
Magic or not, a tank blast to the face works just the same.
Happiness is a smooth tonic. What are you doing here?
So let's rewatch this real quickly and see what we think immediately. First of all, obviously Aurene teaching us about the pool. At the end of the last patch, she told us that she was looking into it, and they even added that extra bit of dialogue, if you guys remember. Well, I think it was pretty obvious this was all going to be scrying pool related. That makes a lot of sense. Now, here's what I'm quite interested in. They say delve into the past, earn Steel Warband rewards. And then what is this as we go along? And they're telling us, you know, Ryland, unlock 5 greatsword variants. Is that we fight alongside Ryland in this mission, and we can get greatsword variants, and then we can choose to fight alongside... I mean, these remind me of the old skill, demonstration videos from pre-launch. This also looks very, very cool. I don't get it. Or is it saying that we can inhabit any number of these people? I'm sure that's not what it means, right? So we can unlock 5 swords from Cinder Steel Temper. And it looks like each time we're fighting in a totally different area, right? In fact, where are we precisely? I mean, this feels like Timberline, right? That feels like an old dwarf. In fact, I'm 100% confident that is an old dwarven ruin asset, like a Fort Rancor or whatever. Well, you can see that there was the weird strike mission portal there. We're going to be all over the place, are we? I don't recognize these. I don't think these are established maps. I don't remember anywhere this tall and this high. Must be somewhere up in the Shiver Peaks, but maybe north of maybe somewhere slightly north of Frostgorge, but still sort of in the hills. Anyway, yeah. So we learn each member of the warband, and each is associated with some new skins that we'll be able to unlock 5 pistol variants. I'm sure it'll be some kind of upgrade path again, right? I kind of like the idea that we'll actually find a connection with these, at the moment, totally random characters as well as we go forwards. Also, fighting alongside the tank as it actually moves. We haven't seen that since what? Or there's one mission in Or if you do the Vigil story where the tanks are moving forwards. But, you know, they've got the new variants and stuff now. And what is this? It was the Iron Forgeman. It totally was. But this doesn't feel like the entrance to Sorrow's Embrace as we know it, or Sorrow's Furnace. This is somewhere totally new. So someone's been messing with the Iron Forgeman and brought another one out. Actually got it out. Oh, it's very cool. Very reminiscent of the Marionette too, which we'll be talking about in just a moment with the Living World Season 1 stuff. Anyway, so it looks like a cool boss fight. Looks actually substantive, right? This can fly by very, very quickly here. This was something some of us were guessing at before this came out. And, well, it seems confirmed here. The Eye of the North is going to be an upgradable hub. This is only on screen for a little moment, but I guess it will be a little bit something like how it was in Guild Wars 1. People who didn't play it there, the Eye of the North has the Hall of Monuments attached to it, and that was an upgradable hub that would allow you to unlock rewards in the sequel game. And, you know, we can kind of look at Guild Wars 2's day right now as an Eye of the North equivalent, right? Especially in terms of subject material. So it's kind of cool to get that back. Again, I think that it's pretty obvious to do this. If you remember last year when we had the Sun's Refuge released, everyone liked the idea of that being a long-term upgradable hub to support the season. And then it was just one episode and people were disappointed. I'm sure at that point the devs said, all right, well, let's do it. Let's keep it in mind as we do the next season, or saga as they're calling it, and we'll be returning here. Not just because the vision pool's here, the scrying pool, but also because we'll be able to do real upgrades. So we're going to be able to build it, you know, and actually fix some of this stuff. And yeah, a strike mission launch portal. Does that mean that this is going to be a bit like an aerodrome, but instead of for raids, an aerodrome for strikes? Instead of having strikes dotted around everywhere? Interesting idea. And then that would actually feed into, if you remember what they were saying before, the idea that some strikes are supposed to be harder than others sequentially. And I explained that you can't really do that if people only unlock later episodes and then they can't access the earlier strikes or whatever. Well, maybe any Icebrood Saga episode that you go into will give you the launch portal, which will give you all the strikes regardless of what specific episode they were from. And then you can actually do easy, medium, hard, and so on. Maybe? In any case, we get lots of gratuitous shots of Aurene in the hall. Then we get the 4 Season 1 missions thing. I'll just and it says replayable for the first time ever. I'll hold off on a second talking about this, but obviously we've got Bram at Cragstead there. Canuck in the mine cave. You guys might not remember that. We'll talk about that in just a second. Rocks. I'm guessing this is the Nolan Hatchery. Yeah, that's what it's called, I think, the Nolan Hatchery. I'm always tempted to say Guyala, but that was the Guild Wars 1 Luxor mission. And then here we got Scarlet. And I don't actually immediately recognize where she is. This could be the top of the Tower of Nightmares, and that's where she's giving birth to the Crate Eratus or whatever, you know, the Prophet hybrid abomination thing. I think this is the top of the Tower of Nightmares, and we're seeing her there. Did we actually see her there, or did we just get a vision of her there? They've got Stone Summit partial armor set stuff. So, yeah, the Stone Summit, I really liked. They're more of a Guild Wars 1-y thing, to be honest. I think this is staged in Cragstead, by the way. If my nerd cred is high enough, I'm pretty sure this is Cragstead. The Stone Summit were much more of a faction in Guild Wars 1. They were dwarves, but not the Delgamore dwarves that were the good guys. They were xenophobic slave masters that really hated to talk to or trade with any other people, namely the humans. That's who we were playing with back then. And then, obviously, the entire race turned to stone, and there's kind of the question of, well, did the Stone Summit fully go into the depths? What did they do? Did they participate in the Rite of the Great Dwarf? That was actually one of the final endgame dungeons of Guild Wars 1, Eye of the North, dealt with the Stone Summit specifically at a place called Slaver's Exile. So, they're very cool, and their helmet was exactly this kind of evil, you know, glowing red eyes from the darkness beyond. I'm wondering if this is here in connection with the Iron Forgeman we saw before, as in these guys maybe somehow found a way to get the Iron Forgeman going again. And yeah, we can see it being displayed on each of the races. I'd be well up for some more Stone Summit stuff. We are in the Shiver Peaks after all. I think that'd be brilliant. You got the Runic armor set and cape as well, that you'll actually be able to earn in-game. Once again, I'll note the fact it's a cape earnable in-game. The community's rampant cynicism just because some of the capes came to the gem store, even though one has always been in game via the friggin' guild systems. I know we don't like the guild systems, so I like to see more in-game capes. And then here finally they say Players Ryland by dropping into the Dark Rime Delves, which of course you can see the entrance of already in the very first episode, not the prologue at Grothmar, but episode 1 of the Icebrood Saga. You could find the entrance of the Dark Rime Delves. That was a Guild Wars 1 dungeon that was now collapsed and caved in. When you went there, that was where you found Almora's body. And so that was kind of a story beat a lot of us didn't enjoy, right? It was like, what, you're just killing off Almora? It felt tacky, because it was like, all right, the Kraukatoric story's over and immediately Almora's dead. And it just didn't feel right. It felt like it was played too fast, too loose, too ignorantly. And maybe the devs did it like that and understated her so-called death. Because here we are at the entrance of the Dark Rime Delves again. And here is Almora, and she's looking a bit beaten up, but she's alive, and she's around. But there you go. So Visions of the Past, Steel and Fire, the first of the Visions updates, really, really set to doing a ton of stuff. I was thinking that a patch like this was going to be kind of a minor thing, but they've listed a lot there just in the trailer. Let's go back to the website as well now and get a little bit more detail on these things. I didn't just want this to be a trailer analysis. So Eye of the North, this timeless landmark, sheltered the heroes of old, and now it can serve you and your allies, help them to upgrade it into a worthy base of operations, including a launch portal for strike missions. We'll see what else that we can upgrade it with later, and hopefully this is season-wide. I will note that as much as I'm hoping it to be season-wide, and it would make sense because strike missions are season-wide and visions are going to be season-wide, and both are starting here, so why can't this be season-wide? We don't actually know, right? Maybe you can't upgrade it too much. We'll see. I wonder if they'll change access to this as well, in terms of... Right now, if you're not playing the Saga, there is that weird situation where you go to Lion's Arch and you buy the stone from a scrit, and it's just kind of iffy and strange. Maybe they'll rework that somehow, and more people will be able to know about it earlier or something. Anyway, you got a public mission. So this sounds like the strikes, really. Meet Ryland Steelcatcher's companions and accompany them on a high-stakes mission to battle the ancient Forgeman. It's got a different name here. Best of all, your job is to blow stuff to smithereens with a cutting-edge char tank. And, well, it does look cool, and it was moving. And char tank gameplay is something I've always wanted from Guild Wars 2. I mean, Christ, you go to the Black Citadel in 2012, what did you see? Some big-ass tanks? It's time to see them start moving, you know? More than what they were able to do in the rushed Orient missions core. You got the story mission for the Darkrime Delves. Venture into the Darkrime Delves during the events of Whisper in the Dark. Here you go, see? So, that's present timeline. That's after we see Almora's body. We saw Almora's body before Whisper in the Dark. Oh, no, we saw it during Whisper in the Dark. Shadow in the Ice is now. So, was this just before or just after? Is this how Almora died? Did Ryland kill Almora? Oh, there's so many cool questions to answer here. Experience the story from Ryland's perspective with his powerful flame saw in hand. Discover the truth behind the legendary vigil leader, Almora Soulkeeper's fate. Alright, this description here does make it sound like she's not alive. She is going to be dead, and they're sticking with that, and all those complaints I have about her death still land. Okay, and then new rewards, and still warband, weapons and skin variety, stone summit armor pieces accessorized with, and a full runic armor set with a matching cape. That's a lot of new gear. They got some screenshots and press material. Now, here's what I want to end the video with, and I want to talk about the Season 1 story missions. Replay 4 story missions from the first season of Living World for the first time ever. Get to know Rox and Bram, face Scarlet's toxic forces, and remember how far Canuck's come in his time with you. So from the trailer, I think it's pretty obvious what the 4 missions are, and we listed them out. There is the Tower of Nightmare, the Toxic Forces, right? Which is pretty late in the Season 1 timeline, honestly. You've got the introductory Rox mission, which is very early in the timeline. The introductory Bram mission, which is very early in the timeline. And the introductory, well, not really introductory Canuck mission, but an early Canuck thing as well, which is pretty early. Some of you guys might not remember that Canuck one. It was the Return to South Sun update, I believe, where you find him in the cave and there's like the mind fight. Shortly after that, I believe, is when Ellen Keel sinks the ship to free everyone, but without actually implicating herself as having done anything wrong. So these are all cool story steps. If you guys don't remember any of this, I will shill my own video, the Living World lore video that I spent a long time producing last year and had a lot of fun with. That will kind of set you right with when all these things happen. But they do seem a bit scattershot, don't they? Because the Scarlet Forces one seems later. Now, let's be clear. I think this is a really good move because I think most players have absolutely no memory for these story beats and have absolutely no memory for how these missions were played. And I think that the devs can re-implement them in the game today in slightly different ways that would make them absolutely worth playing. I do not subscribe to the idea that, oh, we've already done it, so what's the point? That's nuts to me. So I think this is really good. Why I really, really, really care about this, though, is so that new players who come to the game can follow the whole story in sequence instead of having a really annoying, abrupt, and strange cut at the end of the game. Think about it. If you're a new player right now, you do the Zaitan story, you go all the way through that. It's not even that good in terms of gameplay, right? Everyone's telling you, oh, the story gets better later. And then what do? You suddenly start Season 2, and you're suddenly around all these characters that you have no idea who they are or where they are or why they are. And people get burnt out. They don't enjoy it. to enjoy Guild Wars 2, really, you've got to like the story to a certain degree. Most of their efforts are about continuing the story in Living World. They don't do very much for the other formats. So to me, it's a fundamental problem with Guild Wars that you can't see the Season 1 stuff. And this, you'd think, would fix that. My only concern is that this is with the scrying pool. I think that they're using the scrying pool in the Eye of the North to just have a hub and a reason to go back and experience these things, when that won't actually fix the issue that I just described. If I'm a new player and I have to do the whole personal story, and then I have the weird annoying thing in Season 2, and I have to just stick it out, and then I have to play Season 3, and then I have to play an expansion, then 3, then an expansion, then 4, now finally I get to see that, that's not going to work. So I think the devs are doing this with the scrying pool, and I think that's a huge mistake, and I don't actually think it does what I want it to. So yeah, I'm excited to play some Season 1 missions. I really am, guys. But at the same time, I really hope that if we go in game, instead of this being a scrying pool thing, that it's actually just integrated into Scarlet's War here. So we don't have this fourth wall breaking message from ArenaNet where they promise it re-implement it but never have, okay, from 2014, you can see it's here. I want to see these missions actually be in the story journal. And then, yeah, well, you can have introduction to Rox, you can have introduction to Bram, the mission with Canuck, and then the thing in the Tower of Nightmares. That'll be very cool. The Tower of Nightmares is probably the one I'm most excited to play, but it's probably also the least crucial, because what's really important is getting to know the characters. So we'll see what ArenaNet does with it. If they just go with the scrying pool, you know what I'm going to wonder? Well, why not just go gung-ho with the whole fractal thing? Remember, a couple of these missions kind of already are in the fractals, and they're not good enough. I've always said that's not good enough. Did we really need the scrying pool to justify it now? What, because the scrying pool is essentially single-player fractals in terms of the stories they can divulge, anything from the past, anywhere in the world, at any time, inhabit any character, but fractals have to be co-op, and these can be done solo. But you know what? Fractals at low scales can be soloed as well, ArenaNet, so I don't know. In any case, we'll see what they do. I've got my eye on this one. And it's probably, I'm not joking, I like Ryland, we've just met him, so, you know, I'm kind of take it or leave it. I like the Iron Forgeman, I like the look of all the content, but all of that aside, it is this that I'm most curious about with the next release, and could be really, really good move for the game in terms of tackling one of the fundamental problems we've had for years now. So, there you have it, guys. That's what I think about just a selection of the news, really. Keep an eye out. I'll try to talk about the balance very soon. And let me know what you think in the comments down below if I've missed the mark on anything, and we'll see how time goes forward. It's not many days until this releases. Cheers, guys. See you next time.